guys, it's Britt. Tonight we're here to react to a recent podcast that Jojo Siwa was on. She decided to go ahead and defend her friend Colleen Ballinger against the, cancel culture, as she labeled it herself. I am very frustrated by this podcast, and this is going to be a video that is most likely going to upset a lot of you guys, but we're going to react to this section of the podcast and I will give my thoughts. So if you're interested, please keep watching. All right, you guys. So as of right now, this podcast is on Howie Mandel Does Stuff. It has 7.6 thousand views. It was posted 5 hours ago. People are already talking about this. I saw Adam McIntyre made his video about it. I saw Dustin Daly did a video about it. I haven't watched those because, as you guys might know or might not know, I don't like to watch other reactions before I film my own if it's something that I'm going to talk about, just because I want to be able to form my thoughts fresh as is. And so I will link Adam's channel down below because he is one of the victims in this situation. And as I've said consistently, his voice matters. His voice should be one of, one of the ones that leads this conversation. His experience matters, and everything that he has said, he is backed up with legitimate receipts and proof, and had very mature conversations, considering that, Adam is not that old. He is very young, having very, very intellectual conversations about a really tough time in his life. And I give kudos to him for that, for what it's worth. I know it's a tough topic, but to carry yourself with such grace and maturity is something that we don't see very often, especially on social media. And he has been able to do that consistently while sharing his experiences with Colleen and backing everything up with proof. So this section about Colleen starts right after the 30-minute mark, and it's maybe 8 minutes long, so it won't take very long. For anyone that's curious, it has 383 likes, 298 dislikes as of my filming, and we're gonna get on into it. So let's go.
Well, friends are hard and complicated, and they're always complicated. Speaking of friends, are you, and if I'm wrong, are you friends with Colleen Ballinger still?
Yeah,
what do you say about that?
I've known Colleen for since I was 12.
So for those that don't know, Colleen is in the middle of a kind of a.
It's tough. It's a
Colleen. What was the name of the character?
Miranda Sings.
Miranda Sings. My other daughter, went to all the concerts and everything, and she's getting accused of things.
Yes.
Which we don't have to talk about that she's accused of, but I would imagine if you're friends with her, you kind of met her when you were young.
I was 12 when I met her.
I understand that maybe, this is Howie's podcast, and if he didn't want to have that conversation right here, right now, that is his choice. But I think it's really important to talk about the things that she has been accused of and the things that have been proven. I think it's very important to acknowledge those, because if we just simply say, oh yeah, she was accused of some crazy stuff, and just, breeze right past it, people are going to start dropping the gravity of this situation. It's going to, if this makes sense, I feel like it's going to lessen in its value in a certain way if people just, oh yeah, she was accused of stuff, let's move on with the conversation. In my opinion, it is vital to actually acknowledge, especially during things like this, where it's a conversation between more than one person, talk about what she was accused of. Let's talk about it. These words are triggering and they are very upsetting, but it is important to remind people why Colleen was called out. And she wasn't canceled. We're talking about actions having consequences. When you are taking action against a child, you are going to have consequences for your ass. And that is what Colleen was facing, still is facing. And what did she do? She came back with a damn ukulele and wanted to basically tell everyone, you know, kick rocks, y'all don't matter, and I'm going to sit here and strum on my ukulele and just, you know, say F you guys. We saw it. We've talked about it. We've talked about this for months.
And
She's always been nothing but kind to me. Her family, nothing but kind to me. I think it's really, this is the first time that I've talked about this, so I just want to make sure I say my exact piece that I want to say. The internet can take a lie and run so far with it, so far that it's...
So Jojo Siwa is calling Adam McIntyre a liar. Jojo Siwa is calling Becky a liar. Jojo Siwa is calling Oliver a liar. All of these people who came forth with their stories and showed everybody, this is who Colleen is. And this is my story. And this is how she negatively impacted me. And I'm ready to have the conversation. And they were hoping that people would listen. But now, just a few months later, we have Jojo Siwa, who could have been a very loud and great voice for these victims, to stand up for them and show people. I might be young, and Colleen, I might have considered her a friend, but we go back to the same thing of predator protectors. Just as Peter Mon has kind of coined that term, I'm going to go ahead and use it as well, because that is exactly what you are doing when you sit here and discount and deflect and say that people are just lying. Oh, they're lying on me. They're, you know, trying to cancel me. Cancel culture, cancel culture, you know, is always on me. All of this kind of stuff, you are protecting predators.
To the point where you just can't do anything about it. And I've had that happen to me. And I know Colleen very, very, very well. And I think the work that Colleen has done for the internet is incredible. I think her creativity is incredible. Miranda Sings is a character, is a comedian. And I think...
Really, the work that she's done for the internet. So let's rewind a little bit and talk about what kind of work Colleen Ballinger has done for the internet. You know, let's just send the woman a Nobel Peace Prize for all of the great things that she's done for the internet. She created an ableist, racist, immature, grossly out of line character called Miranda Sings, who was extremely inappropriate and preyed upon children, being very naive to how gross she was being, because she knew that kids would watch all of her videos and they would be the ones buying her merch and coming to her live shows, just as they did for many years. Jojo was a fan. So we have the Miranda thing. Then let's move over to Colleen herself. Colleen is somebody who is a family vlogging explorer, mommy influencer. She exploits her children. She has used her pregnancy, her health scares that have to do with her young babies, all of their first moments, embarrassing moments that these kids will not want on Front Street for public consumption. She has used all of that in order to maintain relevancy, as Joshua D. Evans said, on social media. And no, he didn't say that about Colleen, but he said it about family vloggers. And obviously, I consider Colleen a family vlogger. So in between creating the awful, disgusting character Miranda and using her main channel or her vlog channel as a way to exploit her children while simultaneously making extremely problematic content again as herself, those are the great things that Colleen has done for the internet. I am pretty sure that the internet would be perfectly fine, thriving, and doing well if it was not for Colleen. I am positive when I say that.
I think that it's very hard to be a character where people are also looking at you as you're a real human behind that character. And I think being a comedian is very hard because you were able to do things years ago that were okay. And now that we've grown and we've matured, we've realized that they're not okay. You know what I mean?
But you, as somebody who's been in the public eye for a long time,
Yes.
do you?
No, most of us know that it wasn't okay and it never was okay. Colleen knew that her fans were very young and were not going to call her out or try to hold her accountable. She knew that about her fan base. And that is why she was able to make this grotesque content for so long. And she was also building toxic parasocial relationships with a lot of her fans who she was in group chats with and, you know, hanging out in DMs and on random live streams and all of this kind of stuff. And if you dare say anything about Colleen and her gross content, then she would notify her little army of superfans and they would come out and do her dirty work for her.
You think that it is appropriate to communicate openly with everybody that reaches out to you?
No, I don't think that communicating with...
I wish that he would have been a little more precise there with the question because... yeah, like, of course, you know, you're not supposed to be talking to everybody, but the reason that Colleen is an issue is because of the minors. So let's actually focus on the precise question instead of, oh, well, you know, should you be talking to fans? If we're talking about an adult creator and an adult fan, is there a power imbalance? Absolutely. But those are two consenting adults having a two-way conversation. It's mutual. But when we're talking about a power imbalance when it comes to an adult creator and a fan who's a minor, that's a completely different ballgame. And on top of it, obviously, which we've said a million times, but the nature of these conversations. We're not talking about the weather. Colleen was being extremely graphic, NSFW and out of line, sending... you know, NSFW photos of Trisha and saying just all of the bad things. We've gone over that. I don't want to become a broken record, but let's keep going.
Fans is... you got to be careful to not...
and that's what I'm saying.
To not blur a friend-fan line. It's very tough.
And here's my question to you. Regardless of judging whatever specifically is being said that was happening, and I'm just saying this as a parent again. You said you started communicating with her when you were 12.
Yes.
Is you want to
But
be
you
a
guys
parent?
were in the same industry.
So we were
too.
in the
like,
same...
you guys were making videos and stuff together,
So
right?
we actually met because on Dance Mom...
I really wish that she would not have so quickly interrupted Howie because he had a really valid question. I really wish that Jojo could have just answered that at face value for what it was, because the interruption gave Jojo an out to explain, like, oh, well, we met because we were, we didn't meet because I was a typical fan. And she goes on to explain this. It's still wrong. I don't care how you guys met, what your first conversation was like. I don't care. It was inappropriate from the jump. Colleen was the adult in that situation, and she should have done better. She should have stopped it. She should have fully recognized, like, why am I befriending a literal child when I am a woman in my 30s? It's inappropriate and weird. And then the content that they went on to make is literally her being very graphic and disturbing in some of the things that she would say to Jojo. But let me guess, hold on. Oh, it's just jokes. It's just a bit. You don't get it, right?
Do you know Tadra Hall?
Yes.
So on Dance Moms, Tadra Hall had a party and invited the Dance Moms cast, and four of the girls went, and they discluded myself and Nia, who was another girl on the show. And we all knew Tadrick, so we were...
So Tadrick invited children to a party? That seems very weird. That seems weird.
fine with that. But then Colleen, as Miranda, surprised the girls. And me and Nia were devastated because we were massive fans and we loved Colleen and we loved Miranda. And then when the episode came out, Colleen saw how upset me and Nia were. And she reached out to Holly and was like,
So Colleen and Todrick, who also made fun of a homeless woman and totally bullied her when she was just trying to sleep in a safe place for the night. They also went on, these two little friends, went on to have a party with children. They invited children to a party. I am so disturbed. I don't care if it's a favor, a giveaway, a freaking make a wish. Why are you having a party and inviting children? What is wrong with you?
Would love to like make this up to you guys. She was like, I was wondering where Jojo and Nia were. Like, I had no idea that this was the case. Like, please, like whatever you guys want. Like, I just want to make the kids happy. Like, I just want Jojo and Nia to not be sad anymore. And so we ended up going to dinner with Colleen, and it was me and my mom and Nia and Holly. And Colleen was telling me that night about YouTube and how her whole family did it and how it was awesome and she vlogs her life. And that night is when I went home and I made my YouTube channel and decided that that was going to be my career essentially. And
that's a wonderful, sweet, appropriate story.
Yeah. So Jojo decided that her idol told her about YouTube and how her whole family does it. Yeah, her whole family exploits their children. They make a paycheck off the backs of their kids. And that is what Colleen is sitting here bragging to another child about? A child fan, you're saying how your whole family is so cool because they do YouTube? They exploit their kids. Her brother and her sister-in-law are not talented. Acting like they're talented is as insulting as somebody calling Miranda Sings a comedian. It makes my head spin.
Yes.
How is it for you now being her friend and reading some of what we read? Do you think it's all a lie? Do you think it's... Like, have you talked to her?
There have been a lot of people on the internet who have gotten hit with this cancellation. And a lot of them I know. Some of them I don't know.
No. People have not been hit hard by this cancellation. And this is not a cancellation, as a friendly reminder. This is consequences for your actions. This is accountability culture. And this is... We don't like adults that inappropriately engage with children culture. That is what this is. We are having conversations about holding adults accountable for the inappropriate things that they did with literal children in a fan group chat or a DM or public content, whatever it is. We are not here to defend adults who are inappropriately engaging with children. How dare Jojo call Miranda a comedian? Did you also think it was comedy when she called that child up onto the stage and had the little boy digging in her pants for snacks? What about the bit with Becky where she literally spread Becky's legs open in front of a whole auditorium full of people and embarrassed her? What about all of the inappropriate interactions that she had with Adam McIntyre? Trauma dumping on him, asking him inappropriate, disgusting questions, knowing that he was literally a teenager. So we are holding Colleen accountable for all of those things. This is not a conversation of people just simply not liking somebody because they're bored on a Wednesday. That is not what this conversation is about. It is not cancel culture. It is not trolls just trolling somebody that they have deemed dumb. To cheapen this conversation is absolutely wild to me. And for Howie to allow this to happen is also very telling. And I understand you're the podcast host. You want to allow somebody to talk and say their piece and whatever. But also, since this is such a sensitive topic, I also feel like if a podcast is going to be hosting these types of conversations, it also needs to be a little bit more productive than just allowing somebody to pull this kind of nonsense. Literally, you're calling victims liars. Where is the proof that these victims are liars, Jojo? Where is the proof? Where is the proof that they lied? Because I have seen the proof that they are telling the truth. And that is why I have stood so firmly for over 3 years with Adam McIntyre. And more recently with the other victims that have come forward. because I have seen what they have presented. And you are sitting here on a podcast calling them liars and not showing an ounce of proof as to why you're calling everything a lie and how we allowed it. I'm upset.
And I look at it and I see that this is a sensitive subject. Somebody who is affected by any sort of anything having to do with adults, and I mean, for real grooming it's a very sensitive thing.
You must have really young people reaching out to you now.
I mean, I do, and it's funny. Like, I realized when I hit 18, I was like, oh, this is different now. Like, because you know, you're young and you're dumb, and I was like, I need to be.
Jojo is also somebody who has still continued to align herself with James Charles. So I think Jojo, I really hate to say this, but I really hope that it does not become a repeat cycle where we end up hearing about bad DMs between Jojo and underage fans. Not saying that's happening. I am saying I hope it doesn't happen years from now. Because it sounds like she doesn't even get it. Like, yeah, sure, the light bulb went off, but she has so openly accepted this behavior as just being young and silly and, you know, whatever. It doesn't sound like she understands the impact of an adult talking to a minor in a DM or a group chat. And that scares me.
Very careful about this.
Like, I know, like, her daughter's 9.
Yeah.
If she could right now, and she
write
watches
to you and talk to you, like
she would,
yeah.
and she would love to be your friend and love to be online.
And I'm sure you want to reach out to your fans and be like, hey,
Yeah.
give that.
And this is why parents should be installing apps like Bark on their kids' phones. Because unfortunately, if you give your child a phone, there is a small, I hope, a small percentage or no percentage chance that they could have an interaction with somebody that they should not be talking to. And just because somebody is a YouTuber, obviously, I shouldn't have to say this, but just because they're a YouTuber, that does not make them a safe person. Adults should not be talking to children, point blank, period, forever.
Back to them, since they're such big fans of you.
The difference with Colleen and I is we were, once I became her friend and she became my friend, and she became somebody that I looked up to. She became somebody that I idolized. She became somebody that I...
So you're friends, and you looked up to her as a role model, as a child. She was an adult taking advantage of a child who looked up to her, and there was a power imbalance. You can call it friends. I still call it completely inappropriate and creepy and weird.
Was like, wow, this person is a hard worker. She's a genius. She's a very strong YouTuber, and I idolized that, you know? And so throughout our friendship, we've probably filmed 100 videos together. And
let's also talk about Corey DeSoto. Like, why are... I get it, okay? People are friends. People want to defend one another and all of this kind of stuff. But I've said in recent videos, at a certain point, you have to step back from the situation and say, is this really somebody that I want to go to bat for? Is this really somebody who I really know? Because this evidence is being presented that they are actually really, really bad. And I'm continuing to believe their narrative, and I've seen no proof as to all the stuff that they're telling me. Am I just going along with this because I am their friend? And I don't expect someone as young as Jojo to necessarily look at it on a molecular level like, you know, I probably would. I would dissect every little thing. But I do expect, and it's also very telling, that she doesn't have any adults around her to have that conversation with her about Colleen. Like, you know, this is a tough conversation, but we need to have it. And this is a point where you can make a really good decision to actually stand behind victims that have proven their stories and take a stand and be an advocate and be an ally, instead of coming on this podcast and literally calling victims liars and claiming that cancel culture got the best of this really talented comedian and YouTube star. Girl, come on.
She's cool, you know? And I think the problem is the internet was able to capitalize off of her cancellation, and they still are continuing to.
What is cool? Jojo sounds like somebody who is just such a super fan of Colleen. She can't see like past her blinders. What is so cool about somebody who is ableist, inappropriate, exploits her children, and honestly, Colleen Ballinger got successful because she hit the algorithm when it was very fresh and new. She is an OG of YouTube because she was doing something on a platform that wasn't really that popular, and at the same time, she was doing something a little different than what other people were doing. So yeah, like she caught the wave and she decided to ride it as long as she could. And in my opinion, she really knew that kids were going to be her kind of best avenue to be successful for a longer period of time, because kids are naive and they'll buy anything and they'll watch all your videos. And I think that she knew that. I don't think that the thing that I will say is I don't think that Colleen Ballinger is stupid. I think that she is very manipulative, and I think that she does everything by design, and that has been confirmed by Adam McIntyre. And if Adam says that Colleen is manipulative and does things by design and with intent, then I'm going to believe him with every word that he says about it.
And it's not okay, because a lot of it is based off of lies, and it is
a scary place when you put yourself. It was one thing, you know, I came to television, which is totally different, and I'm new to the internet, and I kind of found it through the kids, but it is a really it's like a minefield.
It is.
And so you're doing television now. You're doing
Special Forces.
Special Forces. When does that premiere? On Fox?
So that premieres on Fox.
Okay, so, you know, she finishes this conversation by saying that Colleen was canceled. And everyone's just capitalizing and, you know, being unfair. This interview was such a letdown, and I realized that Jojo is very young. But as I said, the being young thing and being surrounded by yes men and people who won't tell you the way that it is a valid point to make. Simultaneously, I can also say that I'm only going to allow that argument to get so far because Jojo Siwa just said on a podcast with a literally a channel that has almost 150,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I don't know how many listeners they have on like other podcast sites, but she literally just sat up here and called literal victims liars and tried to say that Colleen Ballinger was canceled. Do you actually think that Colleen Ballinger would go to bat like this for Jojo? Because if you do, I firmly disagree. And Colleen knows that. Colleen knows that Jojo idolizes her so much that she would go on this podcast and sing the praises of Colleen and try to manipulate this whole thing into, oh, it's just a comedian that got canceled, guys. Like, oh yeah, Colleen is just so cool. She's an idol. She's so creative. And we are not on your team, Jojo. And I think that you need to severely reflect and pull yourself together, because this was a hot disaster. And just the fact that she is now doing this for Colleen, she's still hanging out with James Charles. Jojo Siwa, you are a predator protector, so welcome to the club of just the worst kind of creators on the internet. It's gross, but you're in the club now, so you got that achieved. But that's going to be it for now. Tell me how you guys feel about this down below. For now, if you like the video, please leave a like and a comment. And if you'd like to see more from me in the future, please subscribe. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.